Welcome, my friends, to the Great Arena of Khaine. We've been here a handful of times before, and to the God of Murder's eternal delight, we return once more for quite the cinematic spectacle with another free-for-all popping off in Nagarythe. In one corner, march Fabio and the hedonists of Slaanesh, admiring their perfectly chiseled abs and bodacious butts in their mirrored shields. Jurassic Park is on the prowl across the arena, with an Oldblood and Salamanders leading a Saurus host. The Dwarfs are, well, they're Dwarfs, everyone hates them in free-for-alls, and Alith Anar is rolling with the forces of Nagarythe, Shadow Walkers, and the Omen of Zurian Arcane Phoenix in tow. So we're playing on the Great Arena map by Bloody Hound and Maruka. It's an amazing free-for-all map, one of the most cinematic ones we've seen on the workshop thus far, and we're looking at tons of maps over the last 3 years, so it's been incredibly impressive to see what map creators have done. But Bajad is playing as the Dawi, and we're looking at a pretty standard free-for-all build from them. Gromby, the Dwarf Santa Claus, a Runesmith, a lot of Thunderers, Quarrelers, and that onion style of play that feels a lot like Shrek. For the forces of Nagarythe, Shadow Walkers, Shadow Warriors, and Alith Anar with his Moonbow of Lilith, a Handmaiden of the Everqueen to raise that reload skill even further, some War Lions, some Chariots, some Dragon Princes of Kalidor, and the Fireborn with their Flaming Lances, the Rahaga's Pride, and the Omen of Azurian flying overhead, conferring immune to psychology, and with that ward save as well. And it can drop Tempests from on high, which is always fun. For Chaos, Forsaken are the front line alongside some Chaos Marauders, the Swords of Chaos for the map-wide apocalyptic vision, and that charge got a bunch of Chaos Knights and Marauder Horsemen harrying the flanks. For the Lizardmen, life finds a way, I guess. Got an Oldblood cohort of Sotek, a Bastiladon with a Rev Crystal, a Heavens Caster flying overhead on a Pterodon, Salamander Hunting Pack, which will not be incredibly useful against the Dawi, but might see quite a bit of use against the forces of Chaos if they can find their way over to this side of the battlefield. But at the start of the match, it's really going to be about Chaos and the forces of Nagarythe. Alith Anar and his Shadow Walkers are in range. Now, Dragon Ogre Shaggoths do have that scaly skin, but might see a bit of Matrix dodging from the Dragon Ogre at the start of this match, and Marauders will take the brunt of that. That was a pretty crazy shot. You don't see that too often, but Alith Anar opening up with a Moonbow of Lilith and the Shaggoth just dodging completely out of the way. Don't know if that was intentional, but it meant a bunch of Marauders died directly behind him. And that's one way to get the fireworks popping off. Handmaiden of the Everqueen should be able to put some pressure on the Swords of Chaos and the Chaos Knights out on their left flank. Forsaken will be very susceptible to focus fire from the Shadow Walkers and Shadow Warriors, and as you can tell, Alith Anar not really looking for a melee engagement, at least not one with the infantry. He doesn't have any infantry. I've gone for a very mobile Strike Force type build where I can use my mobility to my advantage and not worry too much about getting bogged down in a ground war. So if the Fireborn and Dragon Princes can get some clean charges off, Chaos Knights might drop pretty quick when they're supported by the Omen of Azurian. But Apocalyptic Charge is activated, which means these Chaos Knights are more of a threat. Baited the charge initially, retreated, and then went in when I thought he might have lost the attack order, and indeed we did get the full charge bonus off. War Lions and the Chariots going into melee as well. A lot of armor-piercing damage on top of the Chaos Knights at the moment. Forsaken coming in, and now that leaves the Shadow Walkers and Shadow Warriors relatively exposed, and that's a big threat because the Demon Spew and the Forsaken are a little bit faster than those skirmishers and might be able to close the gap, especially the Chaos Knights coming in from the flank as well. So going well on my right flank, going poorly for Chaos on their left flank, but there are some more heavy knights coming to the center of the plateau of that platform in the middle, and if they get around behind, they could put a lot of pressure on the Shadow Walker to do some serious damage. Already, one of the Chaos Knights is routed. Some terror routing going in from the Omen of Azurian. That's why you bring it to help support in the catfight. Fireborn having a wondrous time of it so far, but now the archers are in a much more precarious position because I had to commit all my cavalry out on that side. Jumping out to a big lead right now, already almost 4,000 points. About 1,000 for the Duke at the moment, and I'm already getting a bit desperate to protect my skirmishers, throwing Alith Anar directly into melee to try to stuff up the charge, sending War Lions and even the War Lion Chariots into melee to try to slow down all this aggression from the Chaos Cavalry, but they're free. There were too many knights on the field. They're into the Shadow Warriors, and that's going to be bad news bears. Now, there's a lot of focus fire that can still come in and do some damage, but That's one of the great things about the sword and board heavy Knights of Chaos. They've got the silver missile block chance. They've got a ton of armor. They really just don't have enough DPS from range to cut through them quickly, even when Alith Anar and the Handmaid of the Everqueen are stacked up and firing in. On the other side of the battlefield, the Saurus are charging into the front ranks. Not a lot of meat shields out front, and those blasting charges from the Nordgling's Ironbreakers are always so damn brutal. Look at those HP bars plummet for the Saurus warriors in the front, and Ironbreakers are cheering it on. They're enjoying the fireworks display for now, and they might have a whale of a time here because Lizardmen might be lacking the tools to deal with them efficiently. They don't have a ton of avenues of attack here that will be useful. When it's 17,000 funds as the Dawi, you can box up pretty effectively, and they've kind of held up this entire choke point. And going around the side, well, there's a bunch of Thunderers waiting to fire in, so the Saurus are getting absolutely demolished in the middle, not to put some pressure on the flanks if they want to succeed in that engagement. Now, many of the Chaos Knights have already been killed. The Dragon Princes did a fantastic job alongside the Omen of Azurian. About to finish off one unit of Chaos Knights. Another one, the Swords of Chaos, will probably drop soon, but at this point, the Shaggoth has made it over. The Demon Spew have made it over. And Alith Anar's elite heavy cavalry need to get the hell out of Dodge, or things might get pretty nasty for them. This one unit of Chaos Knights is proving to be a massive issue, though. And Chaos is crawling their way back into this free-for-all already, up to almost 5,000 points. Dwarfs have started off really well, not giving the dinos an inch at the moment, and layers of Thunderer and Quarreler Fire not going to make this approach for the Lizardmen any easier. But the cohort of Stotek with their armor piercing are around the flank going after the Thunderers. That should be a good engagement for them. Organ Guns zoning out the Horned Ones, or the Cold One Riders for now. And the Oldblood atop his mighty Carnosaur, and the Salamanders are coming in as well. So, Salamanders, not a great unit versus Dawi, but they can do two things decently effectively, and that's kill Quarrelers and Thunderers, and more importantly, they can kill Slayers. If they can shoot, get clean volleys into Slayers, they might be able to do some good damage and rack up a lot of points. So, yeah, shooting into those Giant Slayers is definitely a good idea. Typically want to save those for the High Elves or for the Forces of Chaos, but they're across the map at the moment, and they've got their own things to worry about. Forsaken managed to clean up one unit of Shadow Walkers, Rahaga's Pride, letting loose a mighty roar, slowing down and lowering leadership of anything nearby. Omen of Azurian jacked up on top of that, and more terror routes going the way of Chaos. Fireborn managed to extricate themselves from a pretty scary position, but they took a lot of damage in that fight, and they're leading the Shaggoth on a merry goose chase, while the Forsaken are forced to deal with the Omen of Azurian and the Dragon Prince and Warlion Chariot cycle charging. Shouldn't enjoy that a whole lot. Sigvald is isolated at the moment, but Alith Anar and his forces don't have a lot of ways to goon him out inside that Omen of Azurian. Shooting him isn't really going to work. And on this side, Chameleons harrying the flanks, getting some good shots into the Thunderers, but more blasting charges, which have done a number on this Saurus infantry. And the Cold One Riders destroyed. And it's really looking like the Lizardmen just didn't have a great army for fighting the Dwarfs. And in that situation, if you're ever caught in a free-for-all scenario like this one, just ignore the fight. If you know that your army isn't well suited for killing Dawi, don't fight the Dawi. And what frequently happens in these free-for-alls is everyone decides, hey, I hate the Dwarfs. They're hiding in the back with their artillery and their ranged firepower. Let's go murder them together. Yeah, I think it's safe to say they're universally one of the most hated free-for-all factions, simply because of their penchant for sitting back in a choke point and cackling as they blow stuff apart with artillery from long range. Sigvald doesn't have a whole lot of support at the moment. He got a little bit too far forward. Dragon Princes and the Warlions have not committed to charging him down, but the Omen is going in. Doesn't have regen, but does have that fiery rebirth if it managed to get the proc near the end of its life cycle. Chaos Knight's coming in to support. Sigvald down to half HP, but his Auric armor will certainly keep him in the fight and top him off over time. Lizardmen finally starting to make some headway in the melee engagement. Gombrindal doing a lot of work against the Saurus front rank, though. Nordgling's Ironbreaker's getting a little bit blobby, And here we go. This could be one thing to throw a wrench in the Dawi's plans. A Comet of Cassandora from on high, backed up by the Bastiladon with Rev Crystal. And a huge explosion dropping down. Took those Norgumling's Ironbreakers. I'd say that did about 3,000 damage to them, which is big. Because like I said, they don't have a lot of tools for cutting through all that armor. Their melee infantry just doesn't match up against Longbeards, or particularly Ironbreakers, very well at all. You need some Stegodons. You need some more armor piercing to deal with that. On the other side, Rahaga's Pride and the War Lions with the Fireborn on the hunt, and they've caught up to the Swords of Chaos. And the lights are going out, and those baleful eyes systematically destroying the elite heavy knights of Chaos. But the Demon Spew and the Mirror Guard are pretty large issues at this point. Handmaiden of the Everqueen has used all of her ammo. Not sure I did an amazing job conserving her ammunition. Might have been better saving some of that for maybe shooting Gombrindal or one of these other lords in the late game. Probably wasted a fair few of those shots. Shaggoth is still in good shape. Marauder Horsemen are still in good shape, and the Mirror Guard are probably the biggest threat left. Sigvald has fully committed. Alith Anar is dueling with him in melee, so is the Handmaiden of the Everqueen. And the Omen of Azurian coming over for the rear charge, for the RKO out of nowhere. Things are getting very interesting on this side. 13,000 points for the High Elves, 11,000 for the Dwarfs, 9,000 for the Duke and Chaos, and 6,000 for the Lizardmen, who have lost the majority of their army, but they're not done yet. So the nice thing about free-for-all is just because you got pooped on in the initial engagement doesn't mean you're necessarily out of the game. Now, winning for Lizardmen at this point will certainly be hard. Rune of Wrath Ruin and Flash Bomb on the Bastiladon might prevent it from escaping, but you can still keep some of your units around to influence the battle once you get further in. And the Duke and myself, well, we decided, you know what? Let's broker a bit of an alliance here. The Dwarfs just absolutely destroyed the Lizardmen, so let's work with the Lizardmen alongside us. Let's do a three-way alliance against the Dawi and see if we can shut them down for good. So I'd say right now, even though I'm slightly in the lead, the Dwarfs have the advantage because their army is very healthy. They did not take a whole lot of damage in that engagement at all, and none of our armies are really suited for dealing with the Dwarfs. The Omen of Azurian, this Arcane Phoenix, a gorgeous burb of flame and rainbows and death, well, it has magical attacks, which means anytime it lands an attack in and amongst a Dawi squadron, its damage is getting cut down by about 25%. So that's a little bit rough. Also means the Tempest it drops from on high will not be as effective. But if all three armies work together, might be able to make some headway against the evil Pajad and the Dawi phalanxes. The Dark Elves enjoying the show from their boxes up in the Arena of Khaine. And here comes Chaos, here comes Nagarythe, here comes Alith Anar, and the remnants of the Lizardmen forces. Shaggoth got overzealous. I think it ran into Slayers by itself, which is not typically how you want to use your Dragon Ogre Shaggoths. I'll just say that. It's feeding points to the Dwarfs, and you can see they've jumped out to a lead now, about 2,000 ahead of myself in second place. But I've got War Lions, which are good versus Dwarfs. I do have the Fireborn and Dragon Princes, which are okay against Dawi in certain circumstances, and Alith Anar, the Omen of Azurian, and the Everqueen, or the Handmaiden of the Everqueen, are still alive. And my job's pretty simple at this point. Basically kill all the ranged infantry without getting my butthole torn open by the Dragonback Slayers and the rest of the Cult of Grimnir. Ember Storm, ripping down from the heavens, Omen of Azurian, racking up some nice kills there, saving all those stationary vortexes for the Slayers because they do get their asses kicked by that vortex. At least it's one of my best tools for dealing with them. Obviously, I can't send Dragon Princes or War Lions or my Chariots into melee with them or they'll get pooped on for sure. Nice Rune of Wrath and Ruin on the Omen of Azurian to slow it down. Moving slow as molasses in January, but finally made it into the Thunderers. Alith Anar doing what he can in CQB. Dragon Prince is coming in as well, and Rahaga's Pride dropping that mighty roar for the second time, swooping in on top of the Thunderers and getting some points for sure. But Pajad is still about 3,000 points in the lead. Shaggoth came back, and might be on the hunt now. Mirror Guard might want to go after those Nurgling's Iron Breakers because that is by far the most effective way for them to get points at this stage in the battle. First place might be out of the realm of possibility for Chaos and the Lizardmen at this point. Like I said, they can still influence the battle. They can still kill stunty Grudge Gnomes, and by God, that's what they're gonna do. Curse of the Midnight Wind activated on my Dragon Princes, so they'll run away because that's pretty effective debuff. And the Omen's still on the hunt for high-value targets. Don't want to go after Gombrindal right now, just in and amongst a huge force of armored infantry. But going after isolated Slayers to get some of them off the field, probably not a horrible idea. A lot of the Dwarfs are routing now. Their army's starting to look pretty beat up. That'll happen when you goon up on them with 3 separate armies. And the Shaggoth coming over to beat up on the Crimson-clad Nurgling's Ironbreakers, and another Comet of Cassandora about to rain down. But this time, the Duke is on top of things. He's out of there quick, but Sigvald got beat up by Gromby in the process. Orc armor might keep him on the map, but for how much longer? Might be worth letting him get some regen so the Omen of Azurian can get some more points off of him. Probably not the worst idea. Pajad is starting to get a pretty sizable lead. 4,000 now. Huge Ember Storm on the Giant Slayers. Racked up about 25-30 kills on them. Got me about 800-900 points. So I'll take that all day long. And right now we're looking for that Fiery Rebirth. Get the Omen low, and hopefully get 3,000, 4,000 HP back. And unleash them on Gombrindal. Take a duel, hopefully with the Dragon Princes and Warlines nearby. But for now, they're just sitting back. They were exhausted from their run over here. And they're trying to get to a tired or winded state where they'll be a lot more effective in melee. Oldblood is still alive on his Carnosaur. Still on the prowl. Salamander Hunting Pack still firing into the Dragonback Slayers, but I believe they have Flame Resist, so I don't think they'll do as much to them as it would to Giant Slayers or some of the others. Oh my God. Sigvald's getting sync killed by the Omen of Azurian. Getting played with like a Ken doll. Splayed out. Smashed. RKO'd. And he's dead. The Scion of Slaanesh is done. A rather ignoble end for one of Slaanesh's greatest champions. And he's gonna go to sleep on a grate in the middle of Nagarythe. I don't even feel bad for him. That was hilarious. Well done, Omen, for the sync kill on a legendary lord. You don't see that too often. Hell yeah. Oldblood might have gotten... He might have bit off a bit more than he could chew here. Going after the artillery crew. Foe Seeker pop means he's fast. But Rahagra's Pride might be faster when they pop that mighty roar. Slowing him down by 25%. Trying to close the gap on him. Get so many points if you can kill off that Oldblood. And that's the game plan right now. Kill off Alan B, finish off Lizardman forces, and jump ourselves back into this game. Because at this point, between me and Pajad, whoever's last man standing has, well, is probably going to win this game. And I have some forces left, and the Salamanders aren't helping out though. Their bonus for Slorge and 100 missile damage is a little bit painful. Chameleons charging into melee now. Fireborn routed off by a rear charge from Chameleons. And killing the Oldblood is proving difficult because the Omen will deal with Sigvald on the other side. We really needed him here right now to kill off that Carnosaur. Terrorwrath kicking in all over for Nagarythe, and things are looking a little bit bleak at the moment. But here we go. Charge from the flank. That armor piercing was all we needed. And the Oldblood routing off. So it took a lot of damage from the Salamanders. Dwarfs are looking pretty beat up now as well. Getting some good attacks in on top of the Rahagra's Pride, on top of the War Lions, on top of the Dragon Princes of Kalador. But the Omen has escaped, and the rest of the forces of Nagarythe should be able to extricate themselves as well. So we're still in this. But Alan needs to stop feeding the Dawi points. Salamander Hunting Pack. Well, they're fighting miners right now, so that's not the worst, but Slayers are coming in to reinforce. And that'll be another good 500, 600, 700 points for the Dawi. Oldblood chased entirely off the map. Did not want to deal with him again because it represents a big threat to the Arcane Phoenix. Here comes the Basilodon. Shattered. Pterodon Rider up top. The Skink Priest. Pretty low, but not rounded off yet. And now, one final glorious charge. Only 3,000 points down or so. Whoever is last man standing wins this game. And there's only one way to get this thing popping off. Strike the head off the snake, kill the White Dwarf, kill Dawi Santa Claus, kill Gombrindal. That's a flash bomb. Handmaiden of the Everqueen didn't like that a whole lot. Charge speed and melee defense lowered substantially, but the dwarfs are blobbing, and here comes the Ember Storm, Rune of Wrath and Ruin, slowing the Phoenix so it doesn't get into the position it wants to quite as quickly as it would like. But here comes the Vortex. On top of the Slayers, on top of the Nurgleming's Ironbreakers, doing some fantastic damage, getting it well over 100 kills. War Lions and the War Lion Chariots fighting, and they dealt so much damage to the dwarfs there. Grubby is now isolated. About 2,500 point lead for the dwarfs at this point. Oh, Alith Anar is getting the brakes beaten off him by Gombrindal the White Dwarf, though. The Phoenix getting rear charged by the Pterodon riding Skink Priest, you traitorous douche. And at this point, we need the Omen to get that fiery rebirth, to get that huge burst of life-saving hit points. And this time, it's not going to happen. It explodes and takes a bunch of Dawi with it at the end. But what the hell is the point of a Phoenix that doesn't reincarnate? That's literally in the name. That's the entire point of a Phoenix, is that it dies and is reborn anew. And we didn't get the proc. God dang it, Arcane Phoenix. That Omen of Azurian was a beast that battle. No question about it. Almost 140 kills, but I don't know. If it had been able to reincarnate and fight alongside Alith Anar, might have had a chance to kill Gombrindal and maybe round off the rest of the dwarf forces. But might have been a tall order. Gombrindal had 1,500 HP left. He is a force of nature in those kind of duels. He destroys monsters 1v1, unless you have like a full HP Ancient Stegodon or something. So yeah, that was tough. Got really close. If the Nagarythe forces were the last man standing there, they would have won that game. But Pajad and the dwarfs managed to hold on and take the battlefield. Organ Gun did fantastic work for them. Gombrindal and his flash bomb was definitely a huge factor in those late game blobs. I was quite happy with how my Fireborn and Dragon Princes did that game. Shadow Walkers and Shadow Warriors, maybe not so much, but to be fair, they were fighting an army of Chaos Knights with shields, so they weren't going to be able to make the impact they wanted. And the Duke and the Shaggoth got a Chevron. That's some good kills on the Chaos Knights for sure. Alan struggled, but that army was not well suited for fighting dwarfs. And so in that situation, in a free-for-all scenario, avoid the player you know will poop on you if you don't have the army to fight them in a 1v1.